We're back again, Joe.
We're back. Corey's still gone.
Yeah, he's been gone for weeks.
Yeah.
Call the people.
Yeah, call the people finders.
We forgot to call the police. No, he's not missing. He's just not here.
Yeah. Again. But now you have me.
And we got another great Hawaiian shirt as promised. And I got another SCP official merch shirt.
Yeah, and next week we'll make a whole new shirt for you, right?
Maybe. You know, you're not getting to see this, but there's stuff on the back of these shirts too.
Oh, you have to go to the website to see that. You gotta
go to the website. Little teaser. And as always, we got our mugs here. There's more merch than just shirts and mugs.
Yeah, there's pins.
We got pins. We got plushies. We got all kinds of stuff. But this is another episode of Redacted.
Yep.
The SCP podcast, talking about all things SCP, all things horror and weird and supernatural and SCP related, specifically.
Yeah. Can we start a ghost podcast?
A ghost podcast? Yeah, but they're only ghosts from SCP universe.
No, all the real life ghosts.
Ghost.
But ghost.
Yeah. The ghost in SCP-087. Maybe that'll be a few. You want that in a future episode? The ghosts from SCP.
Ghosts! !
Ghosts. But today we're not talking about ghosts. Today we are talking about the most overrated SCPs.
Yep. It's going to be a very controversial episode.
Very controversial.
In fact, that's why Corey isn't here. He didn't want this controversy.
He didn't want the judgment. But me and Joe,
we'll take it on.
We're going to put our opinions out there.
Yeah.
And you guys are just going to have to deal with them. That being said, big disclaimer. We're not saying that these SCPs suck. We're not saying if you like these SCPs, you're dumb. In fact, most of these SCPs, I would say, are very good and or just very important to SCP growing, as a IP.
Right.
However, all these SCPs are very, very highly rated. They're the ones that kind of get the most fan fiction and
fan
art.
And they overshadow some of the more interesting ones.
Right. And, a lot of these ones are they're from the earlier years of SCP. Yeah. And there's kind of a higher writing standard now. And just a general, more, I think, creativity.
Yeah. I mean, looking through all the top rated ones, you see so many from series 1.
Right.
And I think part of that just has to do with, they've been out longer. More people have voted on them,
Well, these are the beginner ones. These are the SCPs that you are the first batch that you read when you're getting into SCP. So it makes sense that they kind of have a little bit of a sentimental value.
Oh yeah.
As well. And again, most of these are good SCPs, but
are they the best?
Are they the best? Even though they're rated the best.
Yes, they are rated the best.
So let's get the most obvious one out of the way. All right.
Right.
The Peanut. By nature, he has to be overrated.
Yeah. I mean,
because he's the number one on the site by a large margin.
Everyone knows him.
And so unless you think he is the best SCP ever written, by nature, he is overrated.
Yeah, for sure.
Is he the most important SCP? Yeah, because he was the first.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was the most important SCP, but there's a lot of things that make him overrated, obviously, because, one, he's kind of the only exception to the rule that you can't use copyrighted material.
He's based on a piece of art,
right?
Instead of a weird photograph or something. There's a real world aspect to him that kind of takes away from it, because it's just a sculpture
Right.
somewhere out there that an artist just made. But
Right.
I think it's still good. I mean, it's still I really like the design. I know people, especially Corey, I think rags on the peanut, but I think that's what kind of makes it. It's like a goofy,
Kind of dopey.
yeah. And like when you have something like I'm thinking of like Child's Play with the Chucky doll. It's like it's supposed to be cute. It's a little bit off, not
Right.
quite cute, and that kind of gives it a little edge.
See, I don't think the original Peanut is scary or cute. I just think it's ugly. I think the redesign is still ugly, but at least it's kind of intimidating ugly. But it's still not super high on my list. And ultimately, it's a very simple SCP.
Yeah, it is.
It's a weeping angel.
Right. We've all seen that Doctor Who episode.
Right. And there's nothing bad against it. The earlier SCPs are very much more like that, where it's like, here's this thing, it does this. And then if you don't do it, it kills you.
Yeah.
That's kind of how most of them are written, and that makes sense because you have to start kind of at a baseline. And then, as the medium progressed, people got to play with the format more. And
yeah, well, you can't subvert a format without it being established.
Right. So it's a very important SCP. It's not a bad SCP, but it's a simple one, and definitely not one on its merits as a skip alone make it the best SCP on the site.
Right.
So by nature, yeah, it's overrated. Fight me. I mean, not physically, you don't know where I am, but
well, they know we're in Austin.
Yeah, that's true. Don't try to find me.
Try to find them.
Here's another controversial one, maybe even more controversial, because I think people probably would say, like, yeah, 173 is overrated, but it has to be. Yours, I think people might actually.
SCP-682.
Joe. How could you say such a thing?
Oh, very easily. I just said it.
All right. Explain.
Hard to destroy reptile. And this hurt a little putting it like first and foremost, because I remember before I had any idea about SCP, before anything, I saw, the classic 682 picture. I was like, that's something.
It's a cool looking monster.
Yeah, it's a cool looking image, and it's as an idea, it's fairly basic. Like you said, these early ones are more basic, and it's just like, yeah, it's a strong, super hard to destroy reptile. There's nothing too much interesting beyond that, though.
Yeah.
And I think it has that sort of like position of like, it's the most strongest, bestest. I was just looking at the J version of it, where it has all those MS Paint drawings, like, it's the strongest done reptile ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, yeah, that's kind of what it is. And as I've read like way more SCPs, it's like, okay, well, we can put that aside and say it was a good start for the website.
Right.
But there's a lot more interesting things.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like the Wolverine of.
Yeah.
It's like where Wolverine is not the strongest X-Men by a long shot, but you can't get rid of him.
Right.
And that's kind of the same thing with 682.
Unless you're Magneto and Ultimatum and you just.
But Wolverine's come back from a single drop of blood before.
Right.
And I kind of feel, I don't know if I've seen an instance like that extreme, but 682's come back from just being a skull.
Right.
Well,
which is like it's a cool monster. I liked the first animation
Right.
we did where it's 682, but it's not about him, it's about the people interacting with him.
Right.
He's a good movie monster type thing.
Right.
Like a Jason Voorhees where it's you can't kill him, you can't get rid of him, he's always going to come after you. But if it was from his perspective, it'd be a little boring.
Right. Not a bad monster.
Not
cool,
a bad monster.
Cool design.
Very cool design. I really, really dig it. And yeah.
It one of the kind of early cop outs of SCP is that just everything's immortal.
Right.
So it's not, when you look at his powers actually as a SCP, like, does this thing do anything unique? There's plenty of immortal SCPs. So, I mean, I guess it's like regenerative. What am I trying to say? Regenerative,
I guess.
Powers. His regenerating powers.
Yeah.
There it is. Are probably more extreme than most.
Yeah.
But, ultimately, like, there's tons and tons of SCPs. Other ones that we're going to talk about here.
Yeah.
173 is an immortal, unkillable statue.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that you just can't kill. So it's not really particularly unique. And it's not like, it's as dangerous as a giant crocodile could be, or a Tarrasque more accurately, but it's not something that immediately is going to destroy all of Earth or anything.
Which is, I mean, that's to its credit. I mean, it's not like we got a immortal, hard to destroy, super strong, and it's about to destroy Earth.
Right.
There's a little, it's not over the top.
Right. But at the same time, it's, arguably top, I don't know, 5 most popular ever.
Yeah.
Top 3, maybe even.
Something like that.
Definitely not on the site, but in terms of like the overall fandom and its influence.
Appeal, like, if people know about SCP, they know about 682. They know about 173.
Right. Well, a little overrated.
Yeah.
Gotta say it. Fight Joe.
Yeah, I'm not in Austin, so you have no idea where I am.
Tell him he's an idiot in the comments.
Please don't.
Here's another one, another controversial one,
big famous one.
And by the way, we're talking about some of the really big famous ones at first, and then we're going to talk about some that maybe the very casual SCP person doesn't know about, but inside the SCP community it is a little overrated. But we'll get to those near the end.
Right.
This one is the Shy Guy, Mr. Shy Boy, 096. Again, another cool monster, but he's basically the inverse of 173.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I guess for the people that don't know what Shy Guy is, it's kind of like a Wendigo in a lot of ways. Visually. And if you look upon him, you see a photograph of him, recording of him or something. He basically beelines it directly towards you, destroys everything in his path to get to you. No structure can stop him, no person, no weapon, whatever. And he won't stop until he finds you and kills you.
Yeah.
Because he's so shy and he doesn't like being seen.
He's just a little shy boy.
So he's just the reverse 173.
Yeah, in a way.
Again, really cool design. And I think that's part of the reason he's so popular. And, again, he's one of the original SCPs, 096, right at the beginning. But again, it has so much fan love.
Yeah.
When at the end of the day, it's very much one of the SCPs that later people kind of make fun of for being the thing that kills you.
Right.
You do this or it does this, and then it's the thing that kills you.
And then it kills you.
Right.
And you do this and that kills you.
Yeah. It really serves no other purpose. There's no like information that you can glean from it. It's played its role in a bunch of different tales and whatnot.
Yeah.
You can do some interesting things with it. They've made live action like short films and stuff.
The live action thing was pretty cool.
And not every SCP needs to be this high concept thing, but again, it's if you know SCP, you know the Shy Guy. And kind of another thing I didn't even mention yet is that the rake from Creepypasta
right.
is basically the exact same thing. And unless I'm totally wrong, pretty sure the rake came before Shy Guy 096.
Right. We were kind of discussing this before. That the genesis of these early SCPs are a little muddled. So it could just be that, somebody wrote the same thing and then one person took it to SCP land and one person took it to Creepypasta land.
Right.
We're not sure. We're not internet historians.
Yeah.
We don't have the hard data, but I'm pretty sure that's how it would shake out. You know?
I'm not saying that 096 was
a ripoff.
Yeah, it's not like they read the rake and then ripped it off. Maybe that was the case. I'm not even sure. I don't think so, though. I think you're right. I think there's just this. There's already this sort of mythological concept.
Yeah, like someone made the post on X, and from there,
and then people took it different places. But still, the fact that there's a copy of it, and I don't think the Creepypasta is a copy of the SCP.
Right.
I don't think it's a ripoff, but the fact that there's kind of multiple renditions of the same creature shows that it's not this like particularly unique concept.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's still kind of in a lot of ways the inverse of 173. So there's just a lot of things that, it's not a super unique monster in terms of its abilities. It's a cool design, but not something that is really like, whoa, blows your mind. But it's one of the most popular SCPs, one of the most loved.
Yeah.
Has an important place in SCP lore and history. But is it one of the best SCPs on the site? Probably not.
No. I think, last week we talked about the brain teaser, brain hurty ones, and those were pretty interesting.
Right.
To just, think about.
Yeah.
Whereas once you read, those, 173, 682, 096, it's like you're kind of done. Like you can imagine, what comes next with them, but other than that, not too much to think over.
I think some of the appeal of the early ones is like putting them in different scenarios. Like where you see YouTubers do like, oh, what if it was 096 versus 682? But if they're both immortal beings, ultimately it's just like, neither's going to die. It's going to be like King Kong versus Godzilla, where they both just...
Well, you don't know that. That hasn't been released yet.
No, the good one. A long time ago.
You mean King Kong versus Godzilla?
That's what I said, didn't I?
I think you said it the opposite way.
Well, I meant King Kong
versus... We can't roll back, but let's assume I'm right.
Okay, first off, a little quick tangent about that movie. Dumb that they made King Kong gigantic, and they made it dumb that he gets power from electricity. What a weird thing to take. Anyways, but there, and also there's the myth is that like in the Japanese version, Godzilla wins or whatever.
He screonks at the end. I don't know. I think that's still a myth. I think
it's not true.
Yeah.
There's one version of the film.
Yeah, there's a reason King Kong comes first.
Yeah.
It's because he was more popular, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. But regardless, back to SCP land.
So I've got one.
Sure.
507.
So this is one of the ones that's more like maybe the very casual SCP person has not heard of
Right.
507, but most of the people that have been somewhat invested in SCP probably know.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, it's the reluctant dimension hopper. And essentially, he's just a dude who gets forced into different dimensions. And the Foundation scooped him up and it's like, okay, cool. We're going to keep our eyes on you.
I had to play him in one of our animations.
Yeah.
And literally like the hardest thing to do when you're voice acting stuff, at least for me, is when you have to do a character that they're like an indiscernible accent because you have no basis of reference.
Right.
So like, okay, I have to do a voice that no one's ever heard of before.
Yeah. Well, I've been told that my Vermont accent is pretty hard to place. Like New England accents are in particular are just like people hear it and they're like, "Oh, where are you from?"
Well, everyone thinks in New England you're supposed to talk like you from Boston.
Yeah, which
is not true.
Yeah, people from Boston shouldn't even talk like they're from Boston.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's always tough. But anyway, back to 507 and why he's a little bit overrated. I was actually surprised to see him on the top of all time list, just because it's like it's a neat concept. It's a very interesting concept, actually. You know, somebody who doesn't have control over whether it's like teleportation narcolepsy, where it's just like, oop, now I'm somewhere else.
Right. So since he hops between dimensions, it's not just like he's hopping because a lot of people kind of think of him as almost like a Nightcrawler type person where he's like popping into different, like he's just physically teleporting, but going into different dimensions, it's more like Rick and Morty where it could be a complete different reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
So different time, different setting, place, there are different rules that exist.
Yeah. And that's interesting. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's an interesting concept that, it's someone just thrust into a situation and they have to deal with it. But is it the best? Is it the best execution of that concept? I'm thinking of like the gas mask. I forget what number it is, but
that is a good SCP.
Yeah, you put it on and then you're teleported. And it's like into a very specific dimension with very specific like rules and monsters and such. And that tickles my brain a little bit more than this, where it's like it almost feels like it could be a JSCP in a way, where
in some ways, yeah,
where it's more lighthearted. I guess not really a joke, but it's more lighthearted. It's not, the sort of horror aspect is kind of lost.
And he's such a plain dude.
Yeah. Which I guess is part of the fun of it. Is like, it's not just the everyman, it's the everyman.
Yeah. You really project yourself on him. But I agree, it's a good concept, but it's kind of at a very surface level. And, not every SCP has to be a big thinker like we did last week.
Right.
You and me aren't snobs. We can appreciate when there's a simple idea executed well.
Yeah.
But in these, when we're describing things that are overrated, we kind of have to, the only way you can really do that is sort of as objectively as you can look at, okay, well, how deep did this go? Like, how far did we push this idea and this concept? And this one does, to like what you're saying, it kind of feels like, okay, yeah, this guy who dimension hops, but he can't control it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you can explain all of 507. There's not a whole lot more depth that you can uncover about him
Yeah.
other than that.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I like to approach things with the idea that like, you just need that one little spice to just really push something over the edge,
Right.
you know? Like some sort of chemical X that'll really take it to that next level. And I just don't think 507 has that,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate.
All right. So I'll go another one that's in a very similar vein to 507. This one is God, SCP-343.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, God's overrated.
God is overrated.
But 343 is one that gets a lot of fan service. And I think he's a little overrated because I think he's a little misunderstood. So, because his name's God, if you kind of just read him at surface level, I think most people just think he is God. Like they literally think he's Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how he's described. But I think when you really read through him, the more general consensus is that he's not really like, quote unquote, like biblical God.
Yeah.
He's a reality bender. And whether you want to call him a God because he's a reality bender, that's kind of up to your interpretation of what a God is. But like he does have a certain level of omnipotence.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But whether you call him God or just a reality bender is just whether or not you think there's like one supreme God, or just the fact that you can bend reality makes you a God.
Yeah. Cause he's not the person from the Bible.
Right.
He's,
even though that's kind of the way he portrays himself.
Yeah. Which he probably likes to have that image. He'd be like, yeah, you read my book.
Right.
But it's not him. Which is, that is interesting. Like, but I don't think it really goes into that in the entry too much, which that would be something that if they really went into it, that would be something that would push it over, push it up.
I think there's some like really nitpicky things that are kind of strange about the 343 entry as well. And we're not ones that like to complain about writers on this site, because everyone's just doing this for free and for fun and just trying to,
they're providing us entertainment.
Right. But if I was being really nitpicky, I think the way he explains that he's God is kind of strange. It's kind of the first time they're like, oh, hey, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm God. And they're like, well, prove it. He walks through a wall and then brings back a hamburger. And I just think that's such a strange way.
Well, that's how you prove you're a God to an American.
Yeah.
Where'd the burger come from?
I just think that's a strange way to prove that you're a God. Like if I was that person, obviously he's working at the SCP facility, so he knows about all these other SCPs. I would not think like, oh, well, that proves that he's an omnipotent God. I think, okay, well, he's some kind of like, he can phase through walls sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like doesn't prove a lot. The next time they see him, he furnishes the whole room to be this old English kind of like high class lodge kind of place.
Right.
Which like would have been more, probably a better show of his power. But again, it happened like he left, and then when he came back and it was there, it's not like he snapped his fingers and changed it right in front of him.
Yeah.
I think there's some kind of strange things there that.
Yeah, he's not going over the top with it at all.
And he seems to have no real interest in doing anything because he stays at the SCP facility under his own will and just kind of hangs out and in his room and answers questions and stuff. But never gives these very like concrete, detailed answers. I think he's just kind of like a lazy reality bender that's just happy and likes being called God by the SCP staff. For those of you that have read Lord of the Rings, he's very much like a Tom Bombadil.
Oh yeah,
type.
Tom Bombadil is God.
Yeah, that's kind of how I always saw him, where he does have all these powers.
Yeah,
but he just doesn't really do anything. And there's an interesting element to that. But, in terms of like his overall scope and impact, he's no different than the vast majority of SCPs, even though he has the potential to have a lot more impact. He said some weird things too, like about 682 not being one of him and whatnot. I just think he's like a reality bender that is, maybe even he has kind of convinced himself that he's God.
Yeah, after a while.
I just think it's a concept that wasn't really taken to its full place.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of what a lot of these overrated ones that we're talking about is just, they get right up to it. And like, if there was a new series SCP, people would say, okay, well, what's the next? What sets it apart from just being this sort of monster?
Right.
Or this reality bender? Like what really is that like final piece?
Mm-hmm.
And it just doesn't have it.
Yeah. But you got one that really kind of asks a lot of scenarios. That's kind of the whole purpose of it.
Right. SCP-914.
Yeah.
I think it's the Clockworks, what it's called, but a lot of people call it the upgrade machine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. It's a machine. You put it in something into the machine and it spits out something that's supposed to be an upgrade or something, better than it was. You put in some steel, you get some screws, and that's interesting, but it is one of the top ones, top rated. And it's like, I don't know if it has that sort of edge to it that would make it that good in my eyes.
Well, it has the dial too, right?
Right. Yeah, it's fine. Very fine, I think. Rough, course, fine, very fine. And that gives it some sort of like mystery, like where did it come from? What sort of person would make this machine?
Right.
And for what purpose?
One of the things I think that's kind of weird about the upgrade machine is I think most of the examples that they put in, you in your head, you're like, oh yeah, I could see how that would be an upgrade. But upgrade is so subjective.
Right.
So screws would be an upgrade over regular steel in certain applications.
Yeah. And if you need to screw something up, but sometimes you just need nails or
right, yeah, or like sometimes you may just need flat sheets of metal for whatever reason. So
sometimes you might want like origami cranes.
So it's just kind of a strange contraption. There's a lot of vagueness to it. I almost think part of its popularity is just because of the scenarios that it implies. Like, well, what if we put 682 in the upgrade machine? Or, what if this went in there and then we set it to fine,
Yeah.
So it's almost more of just
it's more of a tool.
Yeah.
For other things to be used with it.
Mm-hmm.
But in itself, it's just like, it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
And like, I like things where, the experiments reveal something a little bit deeper about it, like, oh, it rejects organic matter for some reason or something like that. But
right.
kind of just doesn't have that. Which
Again, does not a bad SCP.
No, it's an interesting concept, to
Serves
say
its
the
purpose.
least. But out of all the ones on this list, that's the one I'm most like, really? It's one of the top ones?
Yeah, it's like top 10, isn't it? Or, I don't know. It's on the top rated pages.
Yeah, it's on the top rated page, and it's definitely, it's an older one.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely gets that boost.
It's an older SCP, but it still checks out.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this one is very highly rated. And I could make a very strong argument. It is easily the most overrated SCP of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And that is SCP, --J.
Yeah.
For those that haven't read it, it's one of the shortest SCP articles on the site. And it basically, I wonder, can you even just pull it up and read it? Because it's just so short. We could just read the whole thing. And then people could better understand.
Object class, blank. Special containment procedures. In a box in my office. Description. It's a rock that makes you procrastinate. Addendum. Probably mimetic or something. I'll finish this up later. Dr. Varg.
So, it's a smart piece of writing.
Oh, yeah, it's clever.
It's a clever piece of writing. It's kind of playing on the whole SCP thing. And it's playing with the idea that there's all these mimetic kind of properties and SCPs that are happening in the SCP universe. But it was a clever little idea that it's like all the SCP community was just like, ha 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 ha, upvote. And then it just became the third most popular SCP on the whole website. So in case it wasn't, blatantly obvious, it's a rock. It's just a physical rock. But when you're around the rock, it makes you procrastinate. So the article is not finished because when they're around the rock, when they're referring to the rock, they procrastinate. And so the article is never going to get finished. And that's why it's so short. Again, clever idea, good piece of writing, but the amount of effort and time put into that compared to things like 3000 or 093.
Yeah.
Or what happened to Site 13, or a lot of these that are these huge works of writing. And then to see, the procrastination rock as
number 3
on the site.
Yeah. Some people are probably like,
gosh. Yeah. They're just like, well, why
did I think?
Yeah. It's one of those things where, it is a clever idea. It's a good thought, but just the nature of its work, probably not the third best SCP on the entire website. And there's not really too much more to talk about that one.
Oh no,
that's it.
That's it. I mean, it's funny when you read it, but you can't even apply it to really other, SCPs, I guess it would be funny to pair it with 096.
Yeah. You look at it and he's like, I'll get around to killing him later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone should do that if they haven't already.
Yeah. That'd be a funny little skit.
But, I don't think it was really designed to be used in a serious.
Right.
It's more of an in joke for the SCP community.
Yeah.
And that's why it got upvoted. And I understand why it's upvoted so highly, because you can just appreciate the simplicity, but it's almost, in a way, this is going to sound so mean, but it's almost like, I don't know, like a Bon Jovi or a U2 or something where hang with me, Joe, in that it's not bad music, but it's not this world altering. It's not doing anything that is going to be viewed as controversial in any way.
Right.
So it's just kind of generally accepted and liked
Yeah.
by a lot of people. Like very, very few people. I'm sure there's people out there, but very, very few people. If you're like, hey, who's your favorite band? Like Bon Jovi, dude.
Well, I had a professor whose favorite band was U2. He loved Bono.
But those type of bands, there's very few people that it's just like, oh yeah, I hate those guys.
Right.
And
I hate U2.
And I think that's kind of that sort of example in the SCP universe where there's no one who, like, how can you hate that? Like, it's a smart little fun.
Yeah, no one can hate that.
It's a fun idea.
And it works because you going into it, it's got to be something anomalous. It's got to be something that changes everything around it. And it does. So you kind of have to have that foreknowledge of SCPs going into it.
Right.
Whereas other ones, you can read it and appreciate it as just on its own.
Right. Yeah. Just overall is not probably worthy of the third highest rated article. I think at one time it was 2. But yeah, that was SCP --J. I might be getting the number of dashes wrong.
Probably.
But
probably more dashes.
Probably more dashes. I think it's 4 or 5 dashes. But yeah, it's a little overrated.
A little. Just a little.
A little overrated.
Maybe a lot.
Maybe the most overrated. But yeah, that's it. Those are the SCPs that you're gonna fight us about in the comment section.
We probably won't engage in the comments, but we'll let you guys fight
let us know. You disagree? Tell us why 682 really is the best SCP.
Yeah.
Let us know why 173 deserves to be the number 1 rated.
Yeah. I'd like to hear the arguments for them because
you're wrong.
Well, no.
Just kidding. No.
Because I think that, they appeal to different people for different reasons.
Yeah.
And if you have a really good reason of why it works, it's probably a good reason.
Right. Anyways, that was it. Those are all the overrated SCPs. Thanks for watching the episode. This has been Redacted.
Redacted, the SCP podcast.
Make sure you check us out next week. Check out our animation channel.
Yep.
Check out our merch store, SCP shirts.
Check out Hawaiian shirts. They're cool.
Just in general, we don't sell those.
We don't sell them, but
they're cool.
They're fashion.
Got mugs. We got pins. We got all sorts of things. We do not have Hawaiian shirts
yet.
Probably never will. But anyway, thanks for watching. See you guys next week.
See ya.